you know, it was mainly to do with the fact that it ultimately comes down to the fact that it was such a good script. It was really the best script I'd read, that I've been sent in the months coming up to the end of Potter. The story is a great story, and it's chilling and frightening and also very exciting in parts. But also it does more than your average horror film does. It's not just there to scare you. It's also a comment on grief and bereavement and death, and the effects that the death of a loved one can have on your life if you don't somehow find it in you to move on. Yeah, so it's those were some very, very exciting themes for me, and I was excited to deal with them. It was a great part. It was something that I hadn't really done before in terms of being much more restrained and trying to take out all the natural energy that I have. And then I met the director, James, and I immediately liked him very much, and saw him, you know, as a young, hungry, ambitious director who had big ambitions for the film. And yeah, I was just very happy to be a part of it. Well, I mean, some of the crew, it's the British film industry is I mean, it's big, but it's also fairly small. So there were some people that came over from Potter, so it wasn't that first day of school thing where you just go in knowing absolutely no one. So that was a comfort, but also it was lovely. You know, one of the things I love most about my job is the fact I get to meet so many people, and you know, and I get to meet, you know, and the British crews are great, and I love working with them, and I always have worked with them. So it's a place I'm very, very comfortable working. So I had a great time. It didn't feel unnatural to me. It maybe is slightly more jarring for everybody else because, of course, they've seen me as in a schoolboy uniform for the best part of 10 years. But, you know, I'm now 22 and I was 21 when we filmed it. So, you know, I feel I'm moving slightly more into adulthood. So it didn't seem like a totally unnatural jump or too big of a stretch to play. I mean, because he's only supposed to be 25, so it's not too much of a difference. So no, but it was just very exciting to, you know, to step out of those robes and to suddenly see my name on the call sheet next to a different character's name was very exciting. The film is about a young lawyer, Arthur Kipps, played by myself, who is given this job to go and organise the paperwork of a recently deceased woman in a rural English town, and it seems very ordinary and, you know, unremarkable. And he gets there. As soon as he's there, he senses a presence of something else in this house, and it's within moments he is being tormented by the ghost of, and fighting for his survival against the ghost of this very angry, vengeful woman. Yeah, I suppose I'd say it's a thriller. I think that people have, if you say horror movie to somebody, they now expect, I think they think that means blood and gore. So, I mean, to my mind, this is a horror film, but I think for the purposes of most people, it's a thriller. It's you know, a supernatural thriller, if you like. But it is absolutely very scary, and there are some horrifying moments in it, although there's never any blood or gore. I do. You know, I'm not as much of a aficionado of it as for instance our director is, who knows horror like the back of his hand. But you know, I love The Shining, Straw Dogs, you know, the original Hammer films I am obviously a fan of. But yeah, no, the modern kind of, any sort of torture porn horror leaves me cold. Dracula I watched growing up a lot, because I watched it at school a lot actually, at the end of the year. And yeah, Peter Cushing was always, everyone always liked Christopher Lee, but I always liked Peter Cushing. I always thought he was just great, and there's no doubt in my mind that had this film been made 40 years ago, he would have beaten me to this part, absolutely.